A new year means new laws that are going into effect, and you got to be ready for them because there's all kinds of different changes. Joining us this morning to tell us about some of these new laws is criminal defense attorney Vikas Bajaj. It's nice to have you here.
Good morning. Thank you.
Happy day after.
Absolutely.
How was your holiday?
It was excellent. Thank you. We enjoyed it with our new 4.5-month-old, so it was a beautiful thing. Thank you for asking.
That is wonderful. All right. So let's get started on some of the laws. The new laws, like mascot names, like cheering for the Redskins. Tell me about that.
Well, there was a big to-do about the Washington Redskins around 2015, really 2013, leading to 2015.
I remember all that. Yeah.
The law was changed so where, essentially the California legislators said the Redskins label is a derogatory term. It describes people by their appearance rather than their history. So Governor Brown signed it into law that we cannot have that as a mascot name. We've seen a couple high schools in California do away with mascots completely, and a couple change their names to such things as tribe. But yes, that's a reactionary measure that Governor Brown signed into law that went into effect going into effect 2017.
That affects just California, right?
Just California,
right,
that's correct.
All right, minimum wage, increase in the minimum wage will kick off over the next few years, but it starts right after the first of the year.
That's correct. If you have more than 26 employees, you have a different standard than one who has less than or fewer than 26 employees. So if you have fewer than 26 employees, you're allowed to start the increases from $10.50 per hour to a total of $15 per hour a year later. So if you have 26 or more employees, that's going to affect the business starting January 1st, 2017.
This is probably the heated one, the most interesting one, and that's the assault weapons. It was part of a new tough gun law package, right?
That's correct. And we say tough gun laws, but now in California, we are the toughest gun laws really anywhere that you can read about. There's an exception to the assault weapon allowance, and that was what's called the bullet button. So if you look at, for instance, an AR-15 as I would use, and a lot of people are scared when you say the word of a gun or the name of the gun, nothing to be scared about, but the law changed prior, and it indicated that you must have a tool with which you can use to detach a magazine, then reload the weapon. Now, manufacturers and local machinists came up with solutions, something called the bullet button. Now, the bullet under the law is a tool, so the tip of the bullet can be used to depress a button that your finger cannot fit into, therefore exiting or releasing the magazine. Well, California legislators have said, well, that's a workaround, and we believe you must have an actual toolkit to be able to reload your weapon, in addition to the 10 maximum bullets that you can have in each weapon.
This was to prevent the swift loading and reloading of an AR-15, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you something, Carlos. In my practice, I've had the honor of representing a lot of individuals from different backgrounds. I've represented law enforcement officers, both on the state and federal side, having represented FBI agents as well in my office, and Navy SEALs. And I'll tell you, I had a Navy SEAL come into my office who was charged with an offense recently, and the DA's office did the right thing by not moving forward. But I had him demonstrate for me the efficacy of a bullet button and a tool. And it really doesn't retard the reloading of the weapon. And another thing to keep in mind, Carlos, which is really important, criminals, people who actually sometimes walk into my office, those that have done wrong with weapons, very rarely look up the law and say, well, this qualifies and this doesn't. So it really controls law-abiding citizens at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And most of these laws do. Distracted driving. Now, of course, now we have cell phones being used all the time. What's new in the next year?
Well, I have had a lot of clients who are pulled over and they say, officer, I wasn't actually using the phone. I wasn't texting. I was just using my navigation app.
Right.
Well, now you're allowed one swipe or one touch of your iPhone or your Android device, and anything more than that is enough for an officer to say, well, I can pull you over for a vehicle code violation.
Wow. I mean, and this is a lot of Uber and Lyft drivers have their phones way up high where they can see them, and they do touch them, so they're at risk if they do more than one touch and the cop sees them, right?
That's correct. And not only that, but other law-abiding citizens. One thing I worry about in my office is government getting a bit too large and perhaps law enforcement being able to, pick out individuals that may be in violations of serious laws. Well, because this is a vehicle code violation, which disallows that action while you're operating a vehicle, it gives law enforcement a reasonable suspicion to stop and detain you. And so that's the real worry, is how long or how much of a slippery slope is this going to end up being?
Yeah, but it also does send a clear signal to kids who happen to have their phones in their hands at all times. This is like a clear signal. Put that phone down. You don't need to touch it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And whether we need a clear signal or a law to tell us common sense, I mean, just look at the statistics.
Yeah.
We're losing innocent lives. Families are being destroyed. And we see a lot of the propaganda to prevent people from doing this. So hopefully parents will tell their kids to listen to the law and not use their cell phone while they're driving.
So the final one is Assembly Bill 797, which allows Good Samaritans to liberate animals who are trapped in a hot car.
Right.
Finally.
Finally. And there was always a lack of ability to move forward when you're destroying somebody else's property, i.e. breaking a window or a door to gain access to save an animal. Now you can, in fact, do that, but there are two requirements. Number one, you must make a good faith attempt to contact the owner of the vehicle. And number two, you must contact law enforcement and wait for them to arrive. So you don't really have carte blanche authority to break into somebody's window, which may be good or bad. You must wait for law enforcement to be dispatched.
All right. Thanks so much, Vikas Bajaj. Nice to have you with us.